Texas is changing, and the 2026 races are proof. With Ken Paxton vacating his seat for a Senate run and redistricting throwing congressional races into chaos, the power structure in Austin and D.C. is up for grabs. We bring you expert analysis, social media trends, and the poll numbers you won't see anywhere else. Real talk, real stakes. This is Battleground Texas.
Welcome in. I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas. Let's get right to the things that are making headlines for us this afternoon. All right, a new poll in the GOP primary for Senate shows a three-way race. The JL Partners memo reveals a massive vulnerability for the incumbent among, quote, MAGA Republicans, with Senator John Cornyn pulling just 14% compared to 33% for Ken Paxton and 29% for Wesley Hunt. In the Congressional District 28, the headline is whether a Trump pardon is a kiss of death or a lifeline for a Democrat in a heavily Hispanic border district. We're talking about Henry Cuellar, who was pardoned in December regarding bribery charges. His primary challenger and Republicans are sensing blood in the water. And it's craziness in the 31st Congressional District covering Round Rock Temple and Fort Hood. 84-year-old incumbent John Judge Carter is being framed as a, quote, Joe Biden of the Texas GOP due to his age. His 26-year-old challenger, Valentina Gomez, has offered $10,000 to anyone who can host a debate between them to, quote, expose his health on camera. And the wild card for Republican Vince Shamwow Shlomi, his campaign slogan, Make America Grow Some Gajones Again. All right, let's bring in my colleague from Houston, Greg Grugan, and Houston attorney Gary Polland for his expertise. Gentlemen, a topic that has been front and center this week, student walkouts in response to ICE. Take a listen at what the governor said about this earlier this week.
You don't have freedom of speech to say and act any way you want to, anywhere you want to, anytime you want to. The Supreme Court has been very clear about free speech of students, and that free speech of students does not include leaving the school to go protest. And so, by Supreme Court precedent.
Now, in his response, the ACLU said, quote, government officials cannot punish students simply because they dislike their message. Students do not lose their free speech rights when they enter their schools. And while the Constitution may permit discipline in some cases, it certainly does not require it. The statement went on to say the state is threatening drastic and severe consequences for peaceful speech that could amount to retaliation, which is unconstitutional in their minds. Greg Grugan, you first up to bat. We've had 4 already this afternoon here in the North Texas area. I know some are scheduled in the Houston area. For the most part, we've only seen dozens of students. What do you make of this?
Stephen, I think this is a winning issue for Greg Abbott that cuts across partisan boundaries. First, we're talking about children here, not adults. At my house, when I was growing up, exercising my First Amendment right on a whole range of issues and parental decisions could quickly turn into a hazard for my backside. Now, if parents want to allow their children to protest, then go down and get them out of school and accompany them to the appropriate venue. Don't dare lay off that responsibility on educators. Second, the job of teachers and principals is to educate students with core curriculum. It is not part of their job description or their core mission to serve as escorts or chaperones to students who leave campus without permission to express political grievances while skipping class. I think if you poll this, it would at least be 80-20 and maybe 90-10. I'll be interested to hear what Gary thinks of that.
Well, say, Gary, is this something that, you know, the governor is just right on, or do you think it could be something that can hurt him with the continued talk about ICE in Democrat circles?
I think it changes the subject, actually. And look, the purpose of our schools is to educate our children. You don't get educated. You don't learn reading, math, and science by going on the picket line. If they want to go out and protest ICE, do it in the evening, do it on the weekend. Don't do it during school hours. It's ridiculous. Greg's nailed it.
Yeah, Greg, you know, to Gary's point, changing the subject. You know, we were really just talking about the deaths of 2 Americans with ICE enforcement. Trump has now since, you know, kind of said, all right, let's pull back some due to, quote, cooperation amongst local officials. Do you think this is changing the subject?
I really don't think it's changing the subject. You know, I think what we're seeing now is people coalescing around various paths forward. You know, I just talked to Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia about her legislation, which would give permission to cities to, you know, not cooperate with ICE. I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I think we're moving forward. The temperature has dropped in Minneapolis, and that's what the president was after.
Gary, you'll have the last word on this. Is it, you know, we thought, you know, last week if you were to have the election the next day, ICE would be a huge topic. Do you think ICE will still be a big topic in November?
Well, if it is, it's going to be problems for Republicans. I mean, look, the immigration issue has really been taken off the board with Trump's success at the border in cutting off illegal immigration. Now they're trying to clean up the mess that was left from the Biden administration. The optics of what happened in Minnesota were obviously bad. We don't want people dying that are out there, even though they were interfering with the police. But by the same token, I don't think it ever would have happened if the local authorities would cooperate. And Congressman Garcia's bill would just make things worse. Do we want to import Minneapolis to Texas and have that kind of unruly actions and interference to police while they're trying to do their job? I don't think so.
All right, we got another hot topic when we come back right after this break. All right, in the race for Texas Senate, we're starting to see some negative ads on the Democrat side. A pro-James Tallarico PAC called Lone Star Rising attacking Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Take a listen.
Two Democrats running for Senate in Texas. Jasmine Crockett is the only one being backed by Republicans. They spent money to lift her up and push her into this race. Here's why.
She is their favorite candidate because they think that they can beat her.
So with all...
Now, a new survey from JL Partners is sending shockwaves through the GOP Senate primary, suggesting that the race is no longer a two-man fight. It shows a dead heat between Attorney General Ken Paxton, incumbent Senator John Cornyn, and Houston area Congressman Wesley Hunt. The polls put Paxton at 27%, with Hunt at 25.7%, and Cornyn at 25.5%. This marks a massive surge for Hunt, who is putting this out and has climbed 2 points since December, while Paxton has dipped by the same margin. Now, a major grain of salt for our viewers, this poll features a very small sample size of just 600 likely voters with a margin for error. We'd like to bring back in our roundtable. Greg, you know, Wesley Hunt is on the rise right now. Your thoughts?
Look, no disrespect intended, but I'd have a lot more confidence in these poll numbers if it was actually from a pollster I actually knew. Now, do I think Wesley Hunt is making up ground? Yes. Just how much is the big question. Do I think Ken Paxton is losing ground? Yes. The hammering he's taken from Cornyn is starting to have an accretive effect. Do I think Cornyn will survive to the runoff? I'm saying likely, in part because Republicans are starting to worry about Democrat momentum leading into the midterm. And whether you like him or not, no Democrat is likely to beat Cornyn in November. It's all pretty simple, Stephen.
Yeah, Gary, I mean, to Greg's point, I had never heard of this poll before, being transparent. But I do think Hunt is making up ground, and he for sure is on everyone's TV. What do you make of this race just, 2 weeks before early voting?
Well, I think Wesley has been working hard. I'm not impressed with the poll. I think the margin of error probably should be plus or minus 10%. It's so unreliable, which puts everyone within range. I don't think that Hunt makes the runoff. I think the runoff will be Cornyn and Paxton. Paxton's PAC is going to spend $700,000 of bought TV time to go after Wesley Hunt. That must mean to me that Paxton's worried about Hunt skipping by him and getting in the runoff with Cornyn.
Greg, Ken Paxton has only appeared on Fox Cable News and maybe some very conservative podcasts. His strategy is don't talk to local media. It seems like a winning strategy. Do you agree?
I think he's staying bunkered in. We'll see about whether it's winning or not. Look, I think this poll is important because Hunt can use it to try to fundraise. He needs money. 20 media markets in Texas. He's got to get on the air if he wants to keep this momentum going. And so if he can make the pitch out there and say, look, I'm the guy that can end up in that head-to-head runoff, and I get all the support from the odd man out, that's his strategy. So we'll see if these numbers hold up, and Wesley Hunt can turn it into cash, and cash into commercials, and commercials into more momentum. Stephen?
We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Up next, the Ag Commissioner race and how a Governor Abbott endorsement is making some buzz about this race. A recent endorsement in a down-ballot race has people talking. Governor Greg Abbott appears to have some political beef with Ag Commissioner Sid Miller, endorsing his challenger, Nate Sheets, who used to head up a big honey company. Our colleague Rudy Koski in Austin sat down with him.
My opponent told me one time that in his tenure as the TDA commissioner, he hadn't met with the governor one time. So I don't know how you have a statewide plan to help farmers and ranchers inside of Texas without having relationships with legislators, the governor, lieutenant governor, and really trying to bring people to the table and work on big issues and trying to solve them.
Your background is in honey producing. Texas is a vast agricultural entity. Cattle, wheat, cotton, fruits. What's your message to this diverse community? How do you reach out to all them?
But it doesn't matter if you're in cotton, cattle, or corn. Everybody in Texas has the exact same problem in agriculture. You can't afford to be in agriculture anymore. The revenue has come down so dramatically while the input costs continue to go up that it's untenable for people to be in agriculture today. And the challenge that we have right now for a producer, I talked to a rice farmer last week. He farmed 6,000 acres down in Beaumont. He was going to sell his crop for 40% less than it actually cost him to produce that. So how do you stay in business when you do that year over year? And so a guy like that, the further we can get him down the supply chain to go sell to a consumer, then the more money he can make. Because right now he's relegated to 2 buyers, and it's take what you get.
So how does Nate Sheets help the family farmer here in Texas?
So we had the Go Texan program, which I was a member of back in the 90s. It's actually created to help farmers and ranchers be able to access markets, access consumers. Unfortunately, I don't think we've ever had leadership inside the Texas Department of Agriculture that truly understands the nature of accessing consumers, that understands the grocery business, that understands the food business. And so if you go on the Go Texan website today, it looks more like an elementary school fundraising project. So we're going to recreate that. We're going to reimagine the Go Texan program, probably call it the Grown Texas program, specifically for agriculture, and then go to the retailers like H-E-B and Walmart and Kroger, have a in-store robust opportunity for producers to be able, if you have a consumer-facing product, to be able to put product there on the shelf. And if not, then we're going to also have a .com version of and competitive to Amazon to be able to allow you to sell your products to anybody in the United States. And so really getting producers access to consumers, if they have a product that they can sell to consumers, and that's the best thing we can do.
For the consumer, what would you do?
Well, we're going to focus on cleaning up the food.
What's your biggest concern, and what is your immediate action if you take office?
Well, there's 3 things we're going to do. One, I believe in team, and if you don't have a team and a culture that can really make an impact, then you're not going to be able to do much. And so the Texas Department of Agriculture right now has been plagued with poor leadership from a convicted felon who is the chief of staff of the Texas Department of Agriculture today and has had over 130 people leave the TDA since March of last year. The place is in chaos. And so we're going to go in there and we're going to fix the culture, and we're going to ensure that we have the right people on the bus on the right team. Then secondly, we're going to go in and review regulations. And then finally, again, going back and looking at the need to be able to drive revenue and take that Go Texan program and start to revamp it.
Day one, what are you going to do other than clean house?
I asked one of the head association guys, what do I need to do? Like day one, he said, you need to spend the first 6 months going around and repairing all the relationships around the state.
All right, Sheets and Miller taking aim at each other on social media. Miller touting recent endorsements and posting, the people who know me best support me. Those who know my opponent best also support me.
Well, Sheets posted, quote, after raising just $4,000 last month, my opponent is feeding at the taxpayer trough, contracting with an anti-Trump PR firm to boost his name ID in the final days of the campaign. Public dollars shouldn't be a campaign bailout fund. Both men will square off in a forum hosted by the Houston Chronicle next week.
All right, Gary, we're bringing Gary back in, I believe. Gary, many in political circles say this isn't a risky endorsement for Governor Abbott. Why is that?
Because it's a down ballot race, because he has $110 million in his campaign account with no serious opposition in the Republican or from the Democratic Party either coming in November. So he's pretty much free to do what he wants to do. And the facts about this race are interesting. Sid Miller is a real likable guy. He's got a great personality. He's been in office for 10 years. He was on the short list to be Agriculture Secretary for Trump, but that didn't work out. And so now he decided he's going to run again. You know, one of the problems with politicians generally, regardless of party, you get in office and stay forever. You know, at some point you start getting stale. So the idea that we can let new blood into the system is probably a good idea, not necessarily in this race, but in a lot of races.
Greg, the last time I talked to Sid Miller when he was up here in Dallas, he told me if he were to win re-election, he would be the longest-serving Texas Ag Commissioner in some time. Bouncing off of what Gary said, what do you make of this endorsement by the governor?
Look, Governor Greg Abbott clearly feeling his political oats here, giving the cold shoulder to incumbent Sid Miller by endorsing Sheets, who by all accounts is a terrific candidate. But you can't deny there's some political risk here for the governor. Sid Miller has been in office for a good while, and Republican primary voters are accustomed to checking the box by his name. If Miller manages to fend off the challenge, Abbott will have some egg on his face, and the value of his usually formidable endorsement will likely slip some. So I'm left with the question, why? I know Miller and Abbott have had their differences, and the commissioner has been the subject of a handful of ethical probes. As Gary will tell you, Stephen, politics is a zero-sum game, so I'm wondering what's in it for Abbott other than another guy with a big checkbook squarely on his team and beholden. Stephen?
All right. Yeah. All right, Gary, thank you for joining us on this episode. All right, we got much more to discuss. Greg and I will be right back. Welcome back. The Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, he made an endorsement in the AG's race, Greg, and endorsed his former employee. I think we all expected to see that, but I don't think that the AG's endorsement will carry enough weight to get him even to the runoff. Now, we heard from Chip Roy this week, but I really don't think Chip Roy will be able to win outright. But I don't think Ken Paxton's guy will be that other person in the runoff. What race are you looking at, or topic that you were looking at, Greg?
Man, I'm fascinated by Jasmine Crockett. We're reporters, political reporters. We don't pull for candidates. We pull for the fight. And, I just not seeing a lot of fight right now. Let's go back to Beto O'Rourke, the Democrat who got closest to winning a Senate seat. He would wake up at the crack of dawn in El Paso, have breakfast there, be at a mid-morning rally in Midland, fly into Austin, meet and greet there, make it over to Prairie View, talk to students, and then close it out somewhere else, 4, 5, 6 stops. I'm just not seeing that kind of energy from Jasmine Crockett, who's just counting on her name ID. Maybe that'll change. That's what I'm looking for. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We need to see something down this final stretch.
All right, that's all the time we have. You can see the interview or any of our past interviews by going to our YouTube pages, and keep the conversation going on social media.
Hey, we enjoyed you guys on our first week of Battleground Texas Daily. On Monday, we go one-on-one with the head of the Texas Democratic Party. See you Monday.